to the angle, no time to delay. Markets rise and markets fall. Atomcash is ready to answer the call, while the bulls charge hard and the bears dig deep. The angle will keep you on your feet. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Dig in deep with no regret. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle, no time to delay. Cashing in on the highs and lows, where the wind of fortune constantly blows. No looking back, keep your eyes on the prize. Fuel to run with a fire that never dies. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Dig in deep with no regrets. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle, no time to delay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Atomcash channel, the show that flips the switch and floods the system with straight financial voltage. I'm Atomcash, and I'm bringing you the firepower that your life may or may not have been missing. Now, whether you're new to trading or a trading savant, I aim to turn complexity into clarity with a shot of adrenaline. Now, today we have an exhilarating lineup of segments for you all to give you as much information as quickly as possible. As per usual, we'll start the day off with some live trading and market analysis. We'll go through some catalysts, see where the market's sitting right now, especially after this week. And then later on today, a fan favorite so far, it seems to be, we're going to do another episode of, or segment of, the heat check. So basically we take anywhere from 3 to 5 names. I've picked out 3 names, so I'll open up the chat to see if you guys have any names you want to drop as well. And we look at current catalysts, so things that are hyped up on social media, meme stocks, whatever it may be, things that are attractive for one reason or another, things that are getting a lot of volume, any of these names that fit this criteria of being exciting right now. And we look and see why they're exciting, see if there is any substance to that narrative, and then look at it from a technical perspective as well to see if there is a potential play here, whether bullish or bearish or not at all. So that'll be the heat check. That'll be roughly at around 9:45, 10 o'clock. So make sure you stick around for that. I know I've got the last heat check up on my channel right now. If you want to go check that out, it's over on my YouTube channel. It was actually a really great segment. It's gotten more views than my other videos, so it seems to be that people like it. So make sure you check that out if you want a vibe or a feel on some of these more popular names in the market. All right, let's get right into things here. We're going to look at the SPY right at the beginning of the day here. Currently down a little bit in pre-market. We did have PPI data that came in. You saw a little bit of a move here, sitting right around that obvious psychological level of 600. Yesterday we closed sub that 601.92 area, that key LOI. We closed right under it at 601.36. So should be an interesting day to see how bulls and bears react, especially opening around this level. Now, before we go any farther looking into the market, let's take a peek at our catalyst watch and see what is on the radar for today in terms of risk. As I like to highlight to you guys, whether you're a bull or a bear, it does not matter. These are the things I like to call landmines that you want to keep an eye on. That way you know at that time of day, especially if you're a day trader, if your positions could be affected. As of today, the big thing before the market, like I said before, was PPI, and you had jobless claims come through as well. But outside of that, for the rest of the day, we do have Trump talking at a bill signing ceremony at 11. So anything could happen with that if he decides to speak or not afterwards, or what he says during the ceremony, obviously could affect markets. And then also, more importantly, I think, We have the 30-year at 1 o'clock. Now, I mentioned this on a previous episode, but the longer, when you're looking at a bunch of these 30 years, 10 years, 5-year notes and bonds, the longer the term of the bond or the note, the more impact it will have intraday on the market, because those longer term interest rates give you a better feel on how healthy the economy is in theory, right? So that 30-year is going to be pretty important. You will see some volatility more than likely come through at 1 o'clock today. You also have Trump speaking at 2:30, signing some executive orders, so be mindful of that. And I believe that is it. Fed quarterly accounts at noon. You might see something there, but outside of that, nothing really too much to worry about. So Trump at 11, 30-year at 1, and at 2:30, Trump signing executive orders. So those are the three landmines you want to keep an eye on for the day, because they could blow you up or help your position either way. So at least you want to look at those from a risk perspective to see if you should maybe realize profits or cut losses at that point in time. Again, especially if you are a day trader or an options trader. We got about 8 minutes until the open here, so let's look around a little bit. Q's similar motion to SPY, and interestingly enough, IWM down pretty significantly, almost 3 times as much as the SPY, comparatively speaking. We're sitting right here on this key LOI here at 212.13. Obviously, we talk about IWM, and I have another video on my channel called The Bull and the Bear, showing the bull and the bear argument for IWM and SPY, and we're seeing it basically tap around that 200 MA on the daily. That number is 215.19 as of yesterday and the day prior, and getting a rejection off that, which I warned of in that video if you watched it or if you attended Tuesday's stream. So that was a warning sign there of where it would be kind of a hard area to break. Now, with that being said, if bulls can drive through that level, there definitely will be a pretty significant move if we can get through the GP here at 216.21 to 218.52. So keep an eye on those levels through the daily, but at least leaning into today, it's not looking too bullish. In fact, it's looking like we might come down and fill this gap here, not necessarily today, but near term, this 209.18 area. So keep an eye on that if you are a small cap investor. Looking at volatility, we saw the VIX come down pretty good, move up a little bit yesterday, around 1806. Yesterday's high, if I can get that there, was 1887. So big move off the lows, that recent low 2 days ago of that 1623 low on VIX, moving up about 2 points pretty quick. So watch your volatility today. Your VVIX is near 100, so you want to keep an eye on that as well. Let's take a look at our sectors real quick, see what the sectors are looking like into the open. Tech is actually looking like it's going to try to hold up the market here, at this point being the only green sector pre-market. And in terms of blood, industrials are looking the worst at negative, let's go back to the 5 minute, at about negative 1% or so. We've got consumer discretionary down as well. So again, your Tesla, your Amazon. Comm services down a little bit, which is a little peculiar in my opinion. Good to see healthcare kind of flat. And financials, we want to see this move up a little bit if you are a bull here. So kind of a mixed bag already. Even the things that are red aren't red by much. Utilities pretty flat. Staples pretty flat. Real estate is flat. Materials are flat. So mixed bag a little bit. Industrials is the real one pulling things down. And correct me, I might be wrong here, but I believe Boeing is a big part of the XLI. Let me double check that, because I'm pretty sure that would more than likely be the case there on why we're seeing a big drop here. I'm verifying so I don't tell you guys wrong information, because that is something that would make a lot of sense, obviously. All right, this is not giving me the answer I want. Anyway, that's probably what it is. Moving on from that, let's go look at our Mag 6, as I like to say. And we've got NVIDIA here down in the pre-market around this 141.36 level. Remember, this is like my key bull level that we want to keep an eye on, where I'm bullish above this level, and underneath it, not necessarily bearish, but it's not as strong, so to speak. Apple this week did their, and we talked about this on Tuesday, had their WWDC developer conference, and boring. Nothing much came out of there. No innovation. I did a little rant on it on Tuesday. Again, I'm going to keep saying it in case you like a short opportunity. If this 195.83 breaks, this will with strong belief, go back to this high 170s, low 180 area at least, in my opinion. So just be mindful of that if you are someone who is either long Apple or someone who likes a short opportunity that could be there. I'm still watching this Microsoft for a potential short setup. I haven't taken it yet, but like I said, getting back under that old all-time high, that's basically going to be my trigger. But once we see the gas start to run out, that's more than likely where I'm going to pull the trigger on a Microsoft short. So this one's still on a high watch for me for a decent short setup, but it's something I want to be more patient on, because shorting at all-time highs is pretty risky if you don't know what you're doing or you're not risked appropriately. Google's still a fantastic chart in my opinion, still has got a lot of room to go. As we talked about, Amazon, north of $200.11. It's been and will be fine. This 210.88 is an old gap that was filled, so watch that level for a little bit of support there. And Tesla, I've been bearish under 360, which is correct. I didn't necessarily take a long down here or anything like that. I don't really trade Tesla that aggressively once in a blue moon. But if you're a bull on Tesla, that 360 level is going to be very important. You've got a cluster here from 331.89, 339.20, and 345.72 to get through. You might get stuck in here and chop a bit, which is probably preferred if you're a Tesla bull before getting a little higher. So keep an eye on Tesla at those key levels as well. All right, guys, we got about 3 minutes into the open. I asked you guys twice a stream. I'll ask you once right now. If you haven't already, please drop a subscription if you're over on YouTube. Follow me on X if you're on X or on Instagram. Like the stream, share it out with your friends, drop a comment, say hello. All those little things really help me in the algorithm. Again, I'm a very small fish in a big pond of other financial content creators that you could watch, and I appreciate that 60 right now of your eyeballs, well, technically 120 because you all have two eyes, most of you I'm sure, are watching me and listening to me right now, and I know you have many other options, so I appreciate that, and I hope if you value what I have to say and you value the program, if you just interact in some way, even a little bit at some point throughout the day, it really helps me grow the channel, grow, and hopefully I have some plans for the future, but I don't want to say anything yet, but as we grow, more cool things will be coming to this program. So if you enjoy it, you want more things to come, you want more awesome stuff to be on this program, and you enjoy the conversations we have, then please interact any way you can, is greatly appreciated. Okay, 9:28 right now. We're just about getting into the market open here. We're consolidating here on this point of control here into the open, which is basically 600. Let's see what it actually is. 599.94. Yeah, that is the point of control. 599.94, where the most volume is traded pre-market. So we're going to watch that. Watch that 681. That's going to be your pre-market high. And this 597.67. Remember, on the daily chart, we're kind of in no man's land. We talk about this quite a bit, where we're in a level between 592.65 and basically the 601.92, ignoring the obvious 600 level, where we could get a push either which way. So you expect more of a move, at least today, depending on how this open goes. But that's why you're here. We'll talk you through it, and we'll see where we get to together as the market opens in 10 seconds. And by the time you heard that on a delay, the market will probably be open. So let's hang out here. We'll see what happens with the market. We'll go through the sectors once again, take a peek at things. And then don't forget, if you're in the chat right now, especially if you're on YouTube, if there's a name you want me to check out for the heat check, again, the only qualification I'm looking for the heat check, it's a meme name. It's super popular on social media somehow. There's been a catalyst recently, a big catalyst. Drop those tickers in the chat right now. I could pick up one or two more names. I already have 3 pulled aside. So if you have any names that are in the news or anything that's really popular or something you're really interested in, or that other people are talking about that are hyped up, drop those tickers in the chat right now, so we can get that set up for the heat segment and hopefully get the name that you want listed talked about. So please feel free to do that at your leisure. Okay, market's open, and we are holding above that pre-market POC, pushing right out the gate here, north of 600. Again, watch that pre-market high at 681. Let me take a peek at our at the money IV, get a chance at how volatility is. Okay, we got about 22% IV at the money, which is, all things considered, fairly low for, it's still higher than normal, but it's lower than it's been in general, if we're talking about a 52-week rolling basis. So the market's not really anticipating a huge move, and this number will drop as the day goes on, obviously. You'll see some IV decay. We're right at market open, so that's when I like to check it to get an idea of how volatile the market is right at open, or at least IV at the money is right at open. So it's good to see that it's not terribly high. VIX at 1816. Your VVIX still sub 100. Nvidia getting a push here at the gate. Just filled the gap on the day there. Apple big wick down. Be very careful with Apple, guys, especially if you're long. I've already shared my feelings on that, but be very careful. Microsoft looking a little meh. Google trying to push here out the gate. So it's looking like our Mag 6, as I like to call them, are looking pretty okay with our 2 minutes. Again, obviously the 600 is going to be that big psychological level here that we're going to want to keep an eye on into the open here. So no position right now, no long, no short, just watching things as they sit right now and seeing if there is an opportunity to take a trade, and if not, that's okay. As I like to highlight to you guys every single day, there will be opportunities to take trades. If they present themselves, I will happily share them with you, and if they don't, then they don't. What I like to highlight, especially on this program, is risk with you guys, where it's okay and where it's a good idea to go risk on and take a lot of risk, or size into, I shouldn't say size into, I said that twice, size up on a trade, or go a little bit more risky. And there's times where you want to go risk off, and right now we're in that weird risk off environment, mainly due to how we've been moving on the daily chart, at least in my opinion, where we're moving up with lower volume and not seeing a ton of follow through on the daily. But days like yesterday, where the SPY got kicked around quite a bit, there are some opportunities to scalp within those ranges. So you have to be pretty precise, especially if you're day trading, to make sure you're getting in at those key levels, whether the low or the high, or if you're shorting, to make sure that you can make money if that is your goal as a day trader. Well, obviously it's your goal, but if we're in I should say, a more risky environment where things can get pushed around a bit, you want to make sure you have a better entry and not let the market hurt you. Because the market's going to be a little bit less forgiving when it's kind of in this wishy-washy environment, at least in my opinion. I talked about this morning, actually, for our community members over Exclusive Trading, which is a whole community, an education community I'm part of. If you're interested in that, feel free to check out the links. They're all over my bio. But I talked about how I would prefer, if we broke 600, to just come down a bit on SPY and just maybe in a day or two, so by end of day tomorrow, tap this like 592.65, because what that would do is that would allow this little consolidation, light push. It would allow some bears to get out. It would allow some profit taking for the bulls and really allow a little bit more of a cool down than we've already had. Now, conversely, if we hold 600 and break over 601.92, if we get some volume and really push this thing like today and tomorrow, then we can just rally straight through. So it's very iffy, as I said with the bull and the bear on Tuesday, what I'd like to see. For me, I would like to see that pullback because I can get a better long opportunity on people getting scared and seeing some weakness in the market. Getting back to this 592.65, whether today or tomorrow, would be ideal for me to establish some level along on the market, longer term, like medium term, I should say. All right, we got some names in the chat, TEM and Reddit so far. Okay. So guys, drop those names in the chat if you got 1, 2, 3. Or if you like a name that someone else dropped, drop that also in the chat. We'll take votes that way. But like I said, we could take 1 or 2 more names. So if there's any names that you would like, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. And we will look at them together. Or we'll see which ones we'll look at, I should say. I shouldn't make promises. SPY just sitting here right now around this 599-ish area. High 599s. Volume is not fantastic for the open, really. 140K on the 1 minute on the open. At least we're on the 3 minutes into the open, 4 minutes into the open's not great. It's not what I want to see as a day trader if I'm looking to get in right now and get out and make some quick money kind of thing. Not really what I want to see. I'd like to see a little bit more volume come in. Looking like the bulls are going to try to defend this 599.64, which would make a lot of sense. 599.55. So watch 599.55 to defend if you're a bull here. And see if that can sustain. I definitely would not rush this open at all. From a day trading perspective, it's not. So I like to say it's not clean. When I say clean, it means the risk really isn't in your favor either which way, as a short or a long. That's not something I'm interested in. However, let's go fishing, as I like to say. When I say let's go fishing, cast your line, you look for a certain price target, certain level you want to watch, and then at that point you establish either you're long or you're short. And for today, it might just be as simple as looking at that 200 MA, honestly. Where are we at here? 599.25, 599.18, 598. Okay, so between 599 like 20 and 598.76, I'll look to establish a 1 DTE call. Probably look at 600 calls at that point in time. I'm saying this now because I understand there's a lag on the stream, so saying it now so you can be prepared if you'd like to take advantage of that idea. Currently, right now, that 200 MA is right in between that level too, so that would be a prime area I'd look to long. Under that 599.25-ish and north of like 598.70-ish. And then based on volume and what we're seeing at that point in time, will be more than likely where I'd establish that long. Currently, those 600 calls right now trading at 133. So let's keep an eye on those. Let's spy at the top here. Boop. And let's see if we catch any fish, if we get down here or not. If we don't get down here, there's no trade, and that's okay. I'm not going to take the trade right now. But that's the trade I'd want at the open here if I do take a trade. That or the 600 level holds, and we push up to, again, 601 to that 692. And then yesterday's close, you have 601.39 as well. So it's not, you're not going to have a fun time, especially on a 0 day, in my opinion, until you're through basically 601.92. You've got like 3 areas of potential resistance to the upside there. So that's why I'd prefer to get a long down here, where at least I have some cushion, where this is a decent area where I could take a stab, and I'd at least probably could take profit at some point up here. Even though 600s right now are at 160, when I was talking about them, they're at 133. So even if we get lower here, those contracts would probably be about $1, depending on delta, which is obviously going to change, but yeah, they'd probably be around $1. So that'd be a good risk to reward trade to take it down there. Good volume here on this push, though, for the bulls. Red SAR here might crack here. On the 1 minute chart, MACD starting to flip. RSI is over 54. So this is what I'd like to see as a bull here. But again, understanding, obviously, that key 600 level, which we're over right now, for now. Yesterday's close, which was 601.32, I believe. Right, something like that, 601.36, somewhere in that area, and then 601.92. Conversely, you could take a short opportunity on the gap fill to the upside as well, which I'd prefer to be long. I don't want to necessarily be short this market at all, unless it looks super weak and I can kind of get in and out with like a 0 day. Otherwise, I don't really want to be short the market right now in general. Let's look at our sectors real quick and see what we got going on over there. All right, utilities turned it around real quick, plus 0.5%. Energy down about 1%. Consumer staples down a little bit. So this is a good sign when we see, again, I've grouped these up here like this on purpose because they're more of your defensive signals. But your XLU, your XLE, and your XLP overall are red. Obviously, utilities are up. With green tech, so that's hinting that growth is bullish on the day. So the market's looking to be more risk on, and that's just like one indicator, right? That's one thing to look at from a money rotation point of view, where you're seeing money come out of these two sectors and potentially more money flowing into tech, at least at this point in time. Real estate up a little bit, materials getting a recovery, industrial trying. Healthcare, like I mentioned at the open, was looking like it was going to get some level of recovery, or looked like it was going to move back up, so it's good to see. I want to see financials get a little bit more strength, though. I don't love the bull side of the trade with a red XLF, typically. Consumer discretionary, about flat. Comm services, I want to look into this later. I'm a little peculiar that comm services is down right now, so I want to see why that may be. All right, bulls might get a push here. If they're going to get a push, they got to get going like sooner than later here. Otherwise, this is coming back down pretty quick. Again, I wouldn't take the short because I don't want to be short right now, but there's a good chance if bulls don't break this high in like the next 3 to 5 minutes that we're going to come down and make a new low. Not right away, but I'm saying if we bulls don't crack this in 3 to 5 minutes, this high off the open, then we're going to trace back down and make a new low a day. So let's keep an eye on that for now. And then, like I said before, we'll do the heat check segment probably in about 5 to 10 minutes, depending if I take a trade or not. If I don't take a trade, we'll do it in about 5 minutes. If not, or if I do take a trade, we will wait till the trade is mostly or almost fully completed. Or I'll just set alerts and we'll bounce back and forth. So either way, it'll be fine. Wow. There's one stock I'm very excited to talk about today. It's down, as the kids would say, bigly. It is down pretty good right now. How about I share a name with you guys? It's really boring, but I like. Would you guys like that while we wait on SPY here? If I get 3 people, I've got 80 people watching right now. If I get 3 people to put a 1 in the chat, I will share with you a boring name that I think has some decent upside potential. And it's very interesting because I know it's exciting to trade the fun, futuristic names. And a lot of people kick aside the ones that are boring or like they don't move as much or whatever. As you guys know, I talked about Pepsi and UPS on here, both which are green since I've mentioned them. And these are the names you want to accumulate when they're down off these highs because they're not going anywhere. They have strong brand and more than likely have good leadership, depending on, the company specifically. Those boring names are the names that will make you some money longer term. At least in my experience, these are names that will make you some money in longer term if you're patient. Or you can even take options plays. A lot of these companies their option chains are pretty thin, which means you have to be a little tactical about how you're getting in. But once you're in on these trades, they tend to perform very well. Meaning, and I'll mention one, I personally opened a long in Logitech, which we'll look at real quick. And this isn't the one I was talking about, but I opened a long in Logitech after it was mentioned on the Apple WWDC thing. And I opened, whatever they were, 8750 calls, I believe, and held it for a day or two. And then on yesterday, I closed out. And it was like 150%. This is not a boring company, but this is the example I was trying to outlay is the fact that it's a low liquidity chain where you can make some money because that spread is very wide. And as it moves into the money, you tend to get quick delta appreciation, especially in these names when they have a wider spread. Costco is a great example. When they have a wider spread, the odds of it going in the money or out of the money increase. That's why the spread gets wider and wider and wider. So adding low liquidity there makes it riskier, but could offer a really nice upside for you if you're patient and you know what you're doing, most importantly. All right, we got 3 ones. Thank you, Eddie, Hatchet, and David. So I will bring up this name, and this name was mentioned to our members in exclusive trading. But I really like Colgate right now. Boring name. Really, really, really boring name. But interesting chart. Look here on the daily. You've got a downtrend that's breaking, or attempting to break here, while an uptrend's being supported. I hate shapes, as I told you guys in the past. And people look at a pennant, and they go, ooh, a pennant, it might break either way. I look at this as a downtrend or a resistance breaking, and an uptrend being, or a support being respected, which of course is how you should look at an uptrend and a downtrend. But that is a 5% analysis on the 95% of what I'm looking for, right? But it is something interesting to see. Now, specifically with Colgate, you'll notice the last 3 days here, have you seen an increase in volume and some pretty bullish candles, all things considered. You're breaking through the 50 MA on the daily, and 2 days ago, you just broke your red SAR on the daily. So 2 pretty bullish signs if we get some follow through, which fingers crossed, we're starting to get right now. Now, with that being said, this dark blue line on my chart, that's the 200 MA. And I talk about that a lot in this program, and it's, again, something that everyone has on their chart. But this 200 MA here is a decent, obvious support resistance level. But when it breaks, you tend to get a quick move in volatility either which way. And you're seeing here with Colgate how it's been treated that way, essentially, as we've established this downtrend right here in, January, February, March. Back in April again, and we almost tapped it here in May. So now that we're in June, and you've got to treat it as every time, and this is how I like to look at it, especially with on the daily, on the 200, every time you bang your head against a ceiling, the ceiling gets weaker, so to speak. If I take my fist and I punch the wall, yes, it's going to hurt, but if I take my fist and punch the wall theoretically would get weaker. If I punch it again, it's going to get weaker. So every time I punch the wall gets weaker. Eventually, my fist goes through the wall, in theory. Same thesis applies with resistance levels, especially when there's volume behind those pushes. Now, you'll see, as you saw here on the last 3 attempts here, you get a big push up without confirmation. It doesn't really matter, especially with this downtrend resistance here that was established. That would be an area where you want to take profits pretty quickly. Now that we've attempted that 3 times and rejected it 3 times, you're at an interesting place here where, especially on equity or on options, depending how you structure your trade, you could have a very interesting setup where you could get another volatile pop here to the upside. Now, in terms of risk to reward ratio, for me, and again, full transparency, I am long at 92.11, I want to say, so not too late to the party if you want to consider it. I allowed a pretty wide stop in this name, and as you can see on my chart here, this is my risk to reward ratio. It's about 1 to 5 to 1 risk to reward, so not a fantastic risk to reward ratio, but that's because I allowed a stop all the way down here at whatever this is, 87.49. So really a wide stop, and that's just in case there's some sort of catastrophic thing that happens overnight that I'm just not aware of right at market open, and it drops and bleeds through the floor. So realistically, because this name's it's a snail, it's not going to move too fast. Your realistic stop is more or less up towards like $90, a few cents below $90, so that way you don't get stop loss rated. But much tighter stop actually here. Let's just see if I slide this up. Oops. Let's make it $90 just to see how that changes our risk to reward here. And stop at 90. Now you've got almost a 3.5 to 1 risk to reward. So you're risking, if you risk $90 stop, 2% downside for let me get that out of the way, about an 8.3% upside on equity. Again, this is equity. So if you're someone who likes to trade options, and again, it's a very thin chain, you may want to consider longer term, so buy more time in this case, and being out the money. So like the sweet spot, at least for me, if I'm buying swings on slow names like this, where the chain is very thin, I like to go like 1 or 2 strikes out the money, depending on how much time I'm allowing. That way I can capture a little bit of IV on that chain. And again, you're going to have to look at the deltas, the Greeks, to get a better idea of what makes most sense for you. But you can capture a little bit of flexibility, especially with your premium cost, where you're going 1 or 2, maybe even 3 strikes out the money, realistic to where you actually think the stock could go. In this case, my upside price targets are 96.87, 99.79, and 102.47. I really like how this chart's looking. You've got your RSI above 54, which is my magic number for RSI. I do not use RSI as the typical person. I use RSI as a momentum indicator. When over 54, it is more bullish. When under 54, it's not even necessarily bearish. It's just neutral. There isn't momentum behind the name unless it's like sub 30 and it's dropping rapidly. But that tends to be how I like to look at stocks that start to gain momentum. So having 54 on the daily, or above 54 on the daily, your MACD's starting to flip with higher volume. You broke a red SAR here. You're breaking the downtrend. Really, the only thing stopping you on the daily is this 200 MA. And if that breaks, you have everything in this little concoction here to really fire it up to the upside pretty quick, in my opinion. Even if it's just this 96.87, which isn't a fantastic dollar gain on equity, you could have a really nice structured trade here where you are long potentially an options trade and also long equity or even selling puts on a name like this if you have the capital to do so, where you can feel pretty comfortable that this is going to play out for you in your favor. Looking on the weekly, the other thing you just want to be mindful of is that 50 MA on the weekly there sitting at 94. So it's a smidge above the 200 MA on the daily, which is 93.19. So that 93 to 94 area may act as a little bit of a resistance, but getting through that area, especially if there's volume behind that name, should lead to a pretty strong upside move, at least in my opinion. And also, if you're patient and you're trading equity, the monthly here, in my opinion, is gearing up pretty solid here. If you look at the last 3 months here, you have these wicks with price action closing higher and higher and higher. Meanwhile, again, same sort of downtrend thing going on here. But it's looking more and more bullish. We're even sitting right on the POC here on the month at 92.65. So that's your monthly POC. We're just 10 cents off. So getting above that definitely puts the ball in the Bulls' favor on the monthly chart. So if you're someone who's patient, especially with equity, this could be a name that could really work out well for you from a technical perspective. Solid chart in my opinion. You had a hard move up. We came back down. We retested somewhere in this rally area, right, after a long base. And remember, this is the monthly chart. Building out some level of I guess you could call it, if you're looking to be a bear, some level of a flag. And that's why I hate shapes. But everything else isn't suggesting, at least in my opinion, that this is a bear flag. It's actually a bull setup, especially with those specific stops on your radar. So hopefully you guys like that name. That is a name I'm personally pretty bullish on. I like Colgate a lot. Now it's over that monthly POC as I'm talking about it, so maybe everyone's buying Colgate because I have that much pull that everyone's flocking to buy Colgate stock. But I think it's a decent value proposition where it sits right now. Good risk to reward on equity. Again, it's a boring name if you want to park money somewhere. This could be a good name, especially if the equity to sell options on. But I do really like the option pairing with this kind of name where you could consider, I would only consider a buy to open side option, so buying long calls in this case, because a spread, if you're doing like a call debit spread or a put credit spread, it's going to be a bad time, mainly because of the spread on the options chain. Look at the 92s right now, and this is for tomorrow, so you still have a 25% spread here, a 75-cent bid and a $1 ask. So let's just go for kicks out to August. Got about a 40-cent spread, 50, it keeps changing, 50-cent spread at the money. So you got about a 10% flux here. So if you open a call debit spread or a put credit spread, just be really careful because you might get a really horrible fill. So stick that in the back of your head. Anyway, you guys like that? What do you guys think about Colgate stock? Let me know in the chat if you like that name, if you hate that name, it's something you're going to consider, or if it's boring and you hate toothpaste and you don't like to bathe. Hopefully no one says in the chat that they hate toothpaste and don't like to bathe, because that would be concerning.
Bruh.
That would not be good. Let's pop back here on the SPY. Pretty boring, not going to lie. Volume's okay. It's not fantastic for being this early in the morning, but it's okay. We're over that pre-market high, which is a great sign to see if you're a bull. We still have not cracked that 601.92 though. We did break out of that little range here, so over here at like 942, 940, you can rewind the tape. I said if bulls don't push here in the next 3 to 5 minutes, we're coming down. They did. That's great to see. And now we're continuing to the upside here. So let's actually see if the IV at the money decreased at all. Yeah, so IV at the money has dropped. It was 22% at open, now 20. So you're going to want to see if that IV goes any lower here, especially if it goes sub 16. If you see that at the money IV go sub 16, you might just have one of these trend days where you just slowly tick up. Now, with that being said, that would be more than likely the case if we break over 601.92. However, I will qualify it with a reminder that we have Trump speaking at 11 o'clock. Oh, this was just added to my docket here. What's his name? Treasury Secretary to testify in front of the Senate tentatively at 10 o'clock, so something could be said there as well. So we do have these potential catalysts that could increase IV very quickly. But if nothing happens on those things, if that IV sinks sub 16 on the at-the-money options, 0 DTEs, you could see SPY just to the upside if it breaks over the 601.92. So it's kind of what you want to see if you are a bull. All right, not looking like I'm going to get my setup here unless we get a hard sell right now. So we're going to move into the heat check, I believe. I'm going to wait another minute or two. If we back test this old high on the day, it's also POC. So we break through that, you might get a sweep lower. But I'm not really looking to rush a short side trade. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to be short today. I'd rather be long unless we really see some a big trend flip. I'd rather be long and wait for the long opportunity again down here. But if I don't get that chance, then that's okay. Decent red candle there. That was 50 cents there in 1 minute. Staircase up, elevator down right now for SPY. MACD just flipped red, so we'll see if there's some near-term volatility here. Respecting the old high, or trying to respect the old high with your green dotted line here. That's your POC, so point of control, where the most volume was traded on the day. Also being respected here. Let's see if the bulls can hold it together. If the bulls hold it together here, we'll just roll right into the heat check. I just want to see if we pull lower or not, which it doesn't look like we will. Level 2's okay. That sell-off wasn't on the highest volume. This volume's not fantastic. It's not bad, but for it being almost 10 o'clock, this volume should be higher, at least in my opinion. It's okay. I don't know what I'm complaining about. It's not horrible. Let's go back here. Qs are fine. IWM still can't get out of the woods here. I'd watch this 212.13 very closely on IWM for sentiment. And then watch 213.30. Yesterday's low. I believe that was yesterday's low. Let me just double check. Yeah, so watch 213.30 north of this 212.13. You got about $1 there if bulls can get out of the gate here with IWM. Be mindful that there's a 213.14 LOI there. So between 213.14 and 213.30, if bulls can stay above this 212.13, is where you'll start to hit your next line of resistance here. So you got about $1 in IWM if you like that setup. That could be an opportunity there. I just don't like that we're not really getting out of the gate here. VIX 18 right now. So we're coming back down. We're under this 1808 area on the VIX, which is good to see. So volatility is starting to come down. Meanwhile, VVIX is over 100 now. It was 99 near the open. It is moving down. It's trending down, though, so that's good to see. NVIDIA rallied. It didn't necessarily tap. I mean, pre-market did, but it's staying north and rallying north of my bull line here of 141.36. So that's what we want to see. Apple sucks. I don't need to talk about that anymore. Microsoft pretty flat. Google flat. Amazon's trying. Not having much luck. Tesla might get a little rally here. Like literally right here. If Tesla can hold it. If you want to do a tight stop here. Risk 325. So risk like 60 cents downside. You might see a quick upside move here in Tesla. I'm tempted. Ooh, you're at the 200 MA on the 5-minute as well. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. I'm looking at the 330s for Tesla. All right, I'm long the 330s on Tesla at 370. All right, gonna trim out some right now. It's 12%. Sorry, if you hear me click-clacking, I'm typing to our Discord right now, just so they get the updates as well. Watch your red star break here, and then you're going to keep an eye on 327.34. Getting north of that, you're going to tap high a day. Here's 12 to 13% again if you missed it. If you're in a small account, you can obviously put a stop on. Again, looking for this red star break. As long as this POC is respected, decent risk to reward here. MACD starting to flip. RSI is north of 55 or 54. So momentum starting to shift. Kind of have a quasi double bottom here on Tesla as well. So things are leaning the right way on Tesla here short term. These contracts are now at 390. If this breaks this SAR here and we get north of basically this high, 327.37, this should pop to the upside pretty quick. What is the delta on these? Delta 40 right now. So with a Delta 40, that's roughly a $5 appreciation. So that's $2 a contract. So whatever that is, 335.30. What would that be? So that'd be roughly a 60% gain if we revisit the highs, assuming this area can hold. So that's the risk here. And the 330 entry was pretty solid. I'm sorry, 370 entry. Stuttered. All right, back to my entry here. We're hugging the POC here. You're wicked below and you're coming back up. So we want to see this candle close higher here, essentially. We'll zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better here, especially if you're over on Instagram. The longer it stays north, basically of, well, I was going to say basically north of 325.47, the more it's working in the bull's favor. But we did just tap below that. Let's see if we can leave a wick and push to the upside here. How's SPY looking while this is happening? SPY's trying to push back to the highs, just broke red SAR, MACD flipping. So SPY's more than likely going to push for that gap fill on the day and then go for that 60192 area. Tesla protecting the lows here. This is your VWAP here, which I don't personally love VWAP at all, but everyone else has it on their charts. And like I like to tell you guys, if it's a common thing that people have on their charts, you should be mindful of it. So we're at VWAP right now on Tesla. Again, including extended hours. That's going to change your technicals when you flip without extended hours. Changes the look quite a bit. All right. I'm probably going to close these out here if these contracts get like south of 320, because that's basically going to put me at like a net even. Or like a scratch trade, so to speak. It's iffy. Really shouldn't go too much lower than this. Like right around here is where it should stop the bleeding. We're basically at my risk here. Don't want it to go any lower than this. You're seeing some volume pick up here, so that's not a good sign unless we leave a wick. That's going to be my sign to cut the trade. If we leave a wick, that's a good sign. We're trying to leave a wick. Okay, a little bit of a doji-esque candle. Not great, not bad. Indecisive. Don't like indecisive. Let's see if the bulls can hammer it back up right now. 1 or 2 minutes here. That'll tell me everything I need to know. If the bulls don't start moving here in quite literally, I should say literally 3 minutes, then I'll close out the rest here. But we basically tapped my risk parameter. And we are a little bit north of it. Not much breathing room left though. So bulls got to get going like now. Now. 340 a contract right now. Let's check SPY. I think we're going to get a push overall. We have any news or anything coming down the pike really soon? Bessit testifying, I can't say this guy's name. Bessinet testifying to the Senate. That's from any moment now. And Trump at 11. So time is on my side in terms of stepping on a landmine. Basically at the red SAR here, but we're under POC. Contracts are back to 350. So plenty of opportunity to scalp if that's kind of your thing. I prefer just being patient. Kind of want to just do the heat check segment and then come back to this, but like I have good confidence that this will work out as long as that 320 level on these contracts doesn't break. But we are a little hairy here. Don't like that candle too much. Like I said 2 or 3 minutes on this green candle, so this is minute 1. 2 or 3 more minutes, and that's all we're getting this. If we don't see some follow through, then I'm just going to close wherever it is. Which is fine. I'm not mad about it. I made quick 12% or whatever it was. Basically like right after I got in, so all's well that ends well. Getting one more minute on here on Tesla. You know what I might do then? I'll put a stop loss at 320 or at like 319, something like that. That way we can move to the heat check. So let's see if this works out. This is minute 2. So as I said, now and then the next minute. That's all we're giving it. That I'm going to stay here and watch the chart for right now. Back to entry on these contracts essentially. Got back to 365. I have a 370 entry. Can the bulls push it through? We will see. Guys, while we're waiting here, before we get into the next segment, I'd like to ask you twice a stream. This will be the second time. Do me a favor if you haven't already. Pop open your phone, open up your computer screen, wherever you are, drop a like, a subscription, a follow, a comment, any of that kind of interaction stuff. You hear it all the time from everyone else. I try to not bog it down on my stream as well, so only twice a stream I will ask you. So if you haven't already, please do me a favor. It is greatly appreciated, and interact with the stream in any way that you can. Even if you're typing a comment to say, hey, how are you? That helps. Liking it, following, whatever, all of those little things really help me very, very greatly. I'm a very small fish, and I have 100 of you watching, so even if 10 of you did so, that would be fantastic, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much in advance for your interaction with me on this stream. Getting back into Tesla here, right on minute 3, we pushed right through that red SAR, like I said. And now we're green on these contracts. So now we got to see some push through this POC here. Getting over basically 326.90. We're going to treat that as what I like to call my trigger level. So a trigger level is a level in which breaking that is what's going to more than likely push for a strong move, whether you're bullish or bearish. But it's typically treated as like a harder line resistance. It's not necessarily easy to break, but if it does break, you will get a decent follow through move. SPY just went red to green on the day, so that's going to be a good sign there for the bulls, or trying, I should say. Nice little candle there as well. Let's see if we got any news on that. I don't believe so. All right, the Treasury Secretary is actively speaking right now, so stick that in the back of your head if you're in an active trade. I'm probably not worried about that here with Tesla, unless he mentions for some reason during his testimony Tesla's name, which I don't think he will. So I'm pretty okay here. All right, these contracts are back to green here at around 390 a contract. So if you didn't take your first trim, you got about 6, 7, 8% here roughly, depending on your fill. MACD curling up, RSI has still stayed and remained bullish here. So we have good momentum here on the bull side. We just got to break over that 326.90 area. If and when that does break, like I said, strong possibility of tapping the highs here. And these are honestly going in the money. I mean, they're 330s. The high of the day is 329.35. So you could see these go in the money pretty quickly, which would be great to see. Next LOI to this upside here is 331.89. So you could capture about almost $2 there of intrinsic value. So that'd be really, really, really solid for this kind of strike on this name. Like I said, ideally I want to get north of like 550 on these contracts, and I'd feel pretty happy before we roll into the heat check. If we get nothing here in the next like 3 minutes, then we're just going to move right into the heat check. I'll put a stop on and we'll just move on. So because we could just kind of sit around here for another few minutes before getting a push, and I don't want to waste your time. And I won't. I like to try to keep these streams informative, quick pace, having fun, drop some like fun noises like air horns. There you go. Try to lighten the mood a bit and not stare at a chart all day, because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. So I try to provide some, as the kids would say, alpha, something of value to you all. There we go. All right, we're at that we're over the 326.90 area. Gonna probably trim a few here into strength. All right, I took a few off for 16%. Let's see if we get some follow through. So again, that trigger level is 326.90, I believe you said, 98. And we're trying to push above it. So getting follow through on the next 2 candles specifically would be good to see. Even if we come back down to back test it and then rally, that'd be just as good. So I want to see good volume on that last candle as well. So I want to see follow through here in the next 2 to 3 minutes. If not, what I'll do is I'll just put a stop loss at break even and then move on with my day here essentially. And then we'll revisit afterwards, see if I got stopped or not. We're back testing the trigger, which is what I just mentioned we want to see here in the next minute or two. So essentially reaffirming old resistance as new support. We're underneath it though, so that's not what we want to see. I want to just tap it and kind of move on with our lives. Or leave a wick. Leaving a wick is always good. But I want to see this candle close above that level, ideally. We've got about 14 seconds here in this candle, so we'll see if this closes out above or not. If not, like I said, we'll slap a stop on and move on. I just want to catch the exciting part of the move here, if we can catch it live. If we can't, you know, it is what it is. All right, gonna slap a stop loss on at break even here, and then we'll roll into the heat check. That way nothing happens. Nothing is missed. That way no one can lose money. Yeah, worst case scenario, get stopped at break even. You can't lose any money, really. Am I gonna get trolled here? Like, I want to step away and move into our segment here, but Tesla looks like it might try to push. Let's see if we break this previous high. 327.37. We're above it. Can we close above that and get a continuation candle? All right, there we go. Little party. Little bump in price action there. This contract's around 440 now. Let's see if we can get like 470 for another trim. I'd be pretty happy to walk, or at least have a stop on and move on with my day here. 430, 435. Meh. Make sure you have that stop on. We are above the trigger. We've reaffirmed that trigger as support. Like I said on those 1 to 2 minute candles here, which is, as you can see, is clear as day here. Yeah, let's move on. I got the stop loss on. What I'll also do, I'll set a take profit order. So at high a day, they were at 570. I'll set a limit trim at 540. There you go. And I did a market limit trim, so if 540 is tapped, it's just going to sell at the bid typically at 540, so that way I can capture some of whatever there is at that point in time if I'm not paying attention. And I have my stop loss on, so either which way, profit here. I either stop out the rest at break even and I keep the profit I already made, or we push to the upside and I make more profit. So either way, it's a win-win, and I don't have to babysit Tesla now for the rest of the day, at least for now. Okay, so this is the heat check. Let me go into. So we also mentioned TEM and Reddit. So let me just familiarize myself a little bit. I know TEM's a big one with Nancy Pelosi and all this stuff. AI and healthcare. Great. How big are we? Okay, we're over 12 billion, so that's fine. Okay, so we'll add TEM. And let's check out Reddit. Reddit. We know what Reddit is. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we could do Reddit too. Cool. All right, give me 1 second here, guys. I'm gonna record this for those of not you, because you're here right now listening, but for those of them that are not here, that cannot be here, so that way they can come back and watch this later, or you can watch it later too. Right. All right, welcome to the heat check. So the heat check, essentially, we take 5 names of different stocks that are hot right now in the market for one reason or another, whether they have a catalyst, something interesting happening, they had a stock offering, they're a meme stock, whatever it may be. We look at the chart from a technical basis. We also look at the news that's going around it right now, and we deem if any of it has any substance. So today I've got 5 names for you. Those 5 names are OKLO, TEM, BA, RDDT, and GME. So we got a smorgasbord of different industries here, which is kind of nice to see. on the heat check. So we're going to start with OKLO, and unless you've been living under a rock on social media, this is a very, very hot stock. So OKLO, if you're unfamiliar with it, is a nuclear company. This is a hot sector right now in general. All of these companies are getting a lot of attention, mainly because a lot of money flow could be flowing into these companies. Now, with that being said, how do I feel about OKLO and what is the future? Well, as I like to say in general, I don't really like longing names at all-time highs. With that also being said, that doesn't necessarily mean I necessarily want to short at all-time highs. There's a few different things to look at. Now, I will say the news on OKLO as of today is there was a $400 million offering. So that's going to dilute shareholders right now roughly around 4%, right? They're roughly a $10 billion company. So about 4% of their market cap is going to get diluted with a $400 million offering. This is good and bad for different reasons. One, if you're a current stockholder, you're going to get diluted. That's never a good thing. But the good side of things is that they have $400 million, depending on where they're selling it, of equity or of cash coming into their company, which is great because now they have money on their balance sheet. They could do more things with that. They can have more growth. Similar to when we get to GameStop, we'll talk about it. When GameStop had its meme craze and there was shares sold, or AMC had its meme craze and they did an offering to raise more money. This is how companies can take advantage of the stock market to increase and make their bottom line better. So with that being said, I don't hate that that was done as someone who has no interest, at least right now in the stock. I'm not long, I'm not short. But as someone who's watching the sideline, anytime we see an offering, that is going to cause near-term volatility, but that also gives you the opportunity as someone who may not be in the stock to potentially consider an entry, because now you have to think of it from the point of view that the company has a stronger financial balance sheet, right? Their balance sheet in general, if they raise a bunch of money, it's better than it was yesterday. You just aren't invested yet, so it's a good thing, right? Now you get shares on a discount, theoretically, if shares drop, which they will, and you could have better financial performance in the future as a result of that. Now, with that being said, this is a $10 billion company, so it's not necessarily small, but it's not huge in terms of all the other companies we look at. So there's some volatility to be expected in general. What I'm looking for here, specifically on OKLO, again, I'm not necessarily short, or I shouldn't say not necessarily. I'm not short this name. I'm not long this name. And I personally wouldn't day trade this name, mainly due to the fact that their IV and HV is pretty high. Your historical volatility is at 137, and your implied volatility, and this is your rolling 52 weeks, is 121. Your IV percentile, though, is not bad. So if you are someone who does buy the open options, 50% is pretty solid. And your HV is a little high. So that's basically indicating that a lot of volatility obviously is in this name, as you can see on the chart right now. But options volatility isn't as high as it could be or has been in the last rolling 52 weeks. So that's not horrible either. But what I'm looking at with this name here is waiting for some level of a pullback if I do establish a long or even a short position. Where to look essentially are these two levels here at 59.14 and 57.50, where there could be an area of support there on a back test. So getting down, losing about $10 here, that would be the area to consider along if other technicals line up with that. With that being said, there is a gap here that hasn't been filled just yet, from 40.43 to 43.63 on the daily chart. So you want to really watch that, because if this level cracks and there's some volume behind it, getting a pull to fill this level really wouldn't be shocking. You're talking about a 30% fall from basically where we are right now. So there is some inherent risk with being long this name at these levels, and I just find better levels to take better risk to reward, which would be in this range if I wanted to get long, or even in this range on the gap fill, or taking the short off of a failure of this range, depending on how the chart looks at that time. Again, this is my personal opinion, mainly due to the fact that I don't like too long companies that are at 52-week highs. I don't like to buy into the craze like that. If you got in early, God bless, but getting in now could be a little risky. It's not for me, and that's what we got for you today on OKLO. Next is going to be Tempest. So this is one submitted by one of our viewers live today on the Atomcash angle. And if you don't watch, you should watch. It's up on my YouTube if you missed it. So there's recorded episodes as well. If you want to go ahead and check that out, we do some live trading, live market analysis, etc. But here's Tempest. So this is a healthcare AI company. Mainly got a lot of its, I want to say, juice from when Nancy Pelosi mentioned that she was long the name. And this is the weekly chart. Since then, very, very volatile. This is the weekly chart. Very volatile in general. This necessarily isn't a bad thing. It's just something to keep in the back of your head if you do decide to trade this name. Now, with that being said, it's a $12 billion company, so similar to OKLO, not super big, not super small. And if you are someone who likes AI, which most of us are looking at that as the bastion of the future, and healthcare, which is a massive, massive moneymaker if you can get some right things behind you, this could be a very interesting name long term. With that being said, I'd more than likely want to enter down here around this 50-14 area if I am to take a long. On the daily chart, you do have your 200 MA and your 50 MA down there as well, so there's decent support there where your risk to reward could line up pretty nicely. And you even have the second support down here, albeit $8 lower, but at 42.24. So if you're someone who's looking to build out a long position in equity specifically, these would be the areas I'd keep an eye on. Now, with that being said, if you are someone who's looking for a more short-term trade, I would keep an eye on breaking the high here at this 71.97 area, this localized high, where we rejected yesterday and closed underneath. And we might even break it today. Getting above that area with some volume could show some continued upside move here, specifically on TEM, and I'd look for around 83.60, so decent upside chance here if you're someone who's trading short-term options. And I'll be, again, very aware that this is a volatile name with a lot of news going on right now, and a lot of people have their opinions on it, and anything Nancy Pelosi touches is instantly turns to gold. So what there is a risk for a lot of these names that we're talking about here is an offering. I would do a deeper dive. In full transparency, I've not done a deeper dive into TEM. I know it, again, from a technical basis. I'm interested in the name, but I haven't done a deeper dive into this name specifically. But if you are going to invest, I would do a deeper dive into their financials. Understand that it is some level of a growth company, but see how much cash they have and how much cash they will have until they run out of runway, whatever that runway may be. Be mindful if they're doing any sort of trials or anything like that, any R&D. These are things that could take more money, and R&D could actually balloon specifically with an AI company. So if there is a rush on the stock, if the stock goes up, you could fall victim to an offering. And a name like this, it's very volatile. That offering could have the bottom fall out on you pretty quick, depending on how much the offering is for, which is a great transition into our next name, GameStop, which did an offering, and oh wow, GameStop is all the way down at 23 bucks, down 19% on the day. Look, we'll talk about a few things here with GameStop. GameStop is sitting on a treasure trove of cash right now. Massive cash, right? 8 billion, I think, something like that. And what was the offering? It's in here somewhere. I know there was an offering. 1.75 billion in convertible debt. Why does GameStop need another billion, $2 billion almost to survive? I have many different opinions on GameStop, and if you're one of these guys who are thinking the shorts haven't closed, etc., listen, the time for that was back here, or here, or here. These are monthly candles. The time for that was the first squeeze, or the second squeeze, or the third squeeze, or the fourth squeeze, or the fifth, or the sixth. The price has moved up rapidly at many different times. Or this one too, this most recent squeeze in 2024, right? The price has moved up many different times, and if you were short, and I know there's a whole drama there with failure to delivers and everything, if you were short and you're still short from 2021, you'd be absolutely demolished on your margin by now, especially with how the stock is not traded under like $10 or whatever, even after offering or having all these offerings. So I would have a strong sit-down conversation with yourself if you are someone who's long GameStop for the inevitable MOAS, and be honest that isn't going to happen, or you already missed it. Now, with that being said, is there opportunity for GameStop? I think there actually is a lot of opportunity, but with very key words. They are sitting on a treasure trove of money right now. What are they doing with the money? They bought some Bitcoin, but outside of that, they're not doing too much with the money. So as an investor, that's a sign of concern. However, they've got enough money to really revolutionize their own company, to change it into something completely different. They've got a $10 billion market cap and almost as much money as they do in market cap, which is incredible. They could change their entire business. They could rename it something else and be something else. What I don't want to do is be early to that party, unless I'm taking a stab like today, where at least their market cap and their cash is roughly the same. I don't want to be early to that party because Who knows what those plans may be? Those plans could be awful, and I don't agree with them. I'd rather be late to that party where they do something new and exciting, and maybe they change the whole company, they change the name, they change everything, and they do something completely different because they have the money to do that. That's when I'd be interested. But until then, I would be very, very careful on GameStop. I would, again, down here isn't a bad idea to long. North of like 2208 isn't horrible. You've got a little block of support there. But I would be realistic with your expectations, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here with GameStop. I think if you are, I don't want to use the word delusional, but let me put it like this. Roaring Kitty unfollowed Ryan Cohen, okay? If the guy who started this all has some level of lost faith in the original like hype behind GameStop, something to consider. I'm just saying, don't hate me in the comments. It's just, you should at least make the consideration. That's all. And you don't want to trade with emotion. You want to trade rationally with good risk parameters, and I think that's what you should consider. And again, if you aren't long, there could be actually a decent long stab here, anywhere north of 2208 in like today's price. You might get a dead cat bounce, or if you're patient, that could just work out in general. It's just, do you believe in management? Do you believe in what they could be working on in the future? I also would not invest in GameStop as a Bitcoin proxy. Just invest in Bitcoin if that's the exposure you want. Okay, moving on to our next name on the heat check. That's going to be Boeing. Now, Boeing had an Air India crash this morning, which obviously affected their stock. Not great. We've seen Boeing trend up pretty like decently ever since, what was this, the tariff news? Yeah, so tariffs came through, and since then, right to the upside, pretty solid. Getting to this block of support here. Today, gapping down and underneath the localized POC here, so that's your point of control at 205.31. So if you are a bull, you're going to want to see Boeing close over that number today. If we do close over that number today, especially on this volume here, that could be a good sign that the bulls aren't really giving up on Boeing. And this was really like a liquidity sweep. You're respecting this localized level here around this 199.77. So you could even establish a long here with like a 199 stop and still feel pretty good about Boeing, at least in my opinion. Anytime we see these kinds of news, so obviously this crash is super unfortunate. It's horrible. A bit of a overreaction, at least in my opinion, on the stock price. There could be an investigation that could lead to Boeing having faulty parts or something, which caused it to malfunction, etc. Any of that could happen, which could be the downside risk here on Boeing. But if you like the name, and if you like and you want exposure to aviation, there's a decent upside move here if we continue past this weekly candle, basically the high of this weekly candle here. So considering a long north of 199, like I said, as a stop, it's not a bad stab here on Boeing. This is going to allow you to cool down. If that 199 breaks, it wouldn't shock me to get to like 195. So even if you want to move that stop down a little bit more, get a little leg room, plane, get it? Have a little leg room there. That is a qualified risk you could take. But I wouldn't be too worried about Boeing, at least at this stage, as long as you're qualifying that risk with how you're structuring the trade. I think Boeing is actually decent here, even as it has had this rally. This is allowing the ability for it to cool, retest this area of support where it recently was, or at least consolidation is the word I meant to say, and kind of use that as support to get back up here. So could be an opportunity here on Boeing. And the last name for the heat check today is Reddit. Now, most of you probably know what Reddit is, and if you don't, it's a social media platform. I hate Reddit. And I hate Reddit for two reasons. One, I don't think they have a great platform. Two, I don't think they have anything proprietary. And what I mean by proprietary is the information they collect, I think, is absolutely useless. Here's why. And I'm just bearish on Reddit. I'll say it straight up. I'm not short right now by any means. And looking at the chart, you could actually have a good technical trade here, which I'll talk about momentarily. But Reddit, outside of selling ads on social media, which, you know, all the other social medias do, the data that they collect is pointless when people are just making burner accounts to rant about their husband, their wives anonymously, or, you know, look at porn, whatever thing they're doing on Reddit. There's not, in my opinion, really marketable information there. There is to some degree, of course. Obviously, the subreddits you follow and whatnot, you could target ads that way to hit a certain community of person. There's value there. But when people don't need to be who they really are, I guess I want to say. And some people are on Reddit, but on X and on YouTube and on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat, all the other social medias, people are who they say they are. Obviously, there's people who pretend they're not and catfish and whatever. But a lot of the times, those people are who they say they are. They portray who they are. I'm Atomcash, whatever. And yeah, you could do that on Reddit as well. But for the use of what Reddit is, in my opinion, I feel most people aren't portraying who they are because they're going to there as some place where they can be a little bit more anonymous than they already may be on social media in general. Now, with that being said, my own little bear thoughts out of the way, and I could be completely wrong on that. That's just my opinion. We'll see as time goes on. You're sitting around the point of control here on the daily. Not bad. Actually, let me check one more thing here. Did we have any news recently? Chief product officer to leave the company. That's not good. Anytime you have a C-suite change, literally, normally pretty bad. Downgrade here. Fraud investigation. No idea what that is. You might want to check that out. Okay, so, nothing like major here in terms of a catalyst. Just a hot name in general. You're at, like, we zoomed all the way out here. We are at this strong POC here from October 2024. 113.49. Actually, let's get a little tighter here. Let's go like that. That. Okay, so now 112.39. So if you like Reddit, staying north of this level, this is going to be a massive level to watch on the daily here. From a structural standpoint, so just looking at the technical here, you're basically like, you've had a rally, you've had your little moonshot, we fell down, you left a gap here as well, and now you're kind of consolidating here around the 200 MA. Being north of this, what level that was, 212.39, would be what I would consider good risk, where you could establish a long, if you like the name, and use like 110 as a stop, just giving you a little bit of flux there. Or the 50 MA just shy underneath, it's roughly around 108. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room where you could still take advantage of the upside. Now, speaking just from a price action point of view, you could get 100% upside on this, so you could revisit the highs. This would be something where I would wait for, I mean, we already have the base. If the base plays out, you're looking at this area of consolidation as like your first price target. So somewhere in this like 160, 170 area is pretty solid before getting to highs. If we see basically like a big old cup here, which could happen. I don't hate that idea. And even on the weekly, you have your MACD starting to flip here. Again, kind of forming that kind of, do a quick and dirty right now. Not measuring these perfectly. Don't sue me. Like kind of like a ascending triangle flat top breakout kind of thing. This is actually one of my favorite formations where we see price action move up, but there's still that ceiling. And if you're watching live, we talked about how as that resistance hits over and over and over, that ceiling gets weaker and weaker and weaker, eventually breaks. So now that we're seeing this on the weekly, I actually really don't hate this setup from a technical standpoint. So even though I don't love the company, how Reddit's sitting here, I think you could actually have a decent long if you manage a stop on this name. And again, I'd manage that stop at like, if you want to be a little bit more loose with it, around 108. Now there is good risk to reward here. Talking about $50 upside. If you risk 108, what's that? Like $6 downside. Pretty decent risk to reward if you like that name. So I don't hate Reddit as a long. It's not going to be an easy long to break, but when it does break, I think you'll have more of a volatile move. With that said, going back to what I said in the beginning here, I don't like Reddit as a company, and I think that is a risk. If you are an investor, you obviously want to like the companies you invest in, depending on what your goals are. So be mindful of that as you consider Reddit. All right, guys, that's it for the heat check. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. All right, cool. What do we think of the heat check, guys? Are there any names we went over that you are excited in? Are any names you dislike? Let me know your feelings in the chat. My Tesla looks like it got stopped, right? Yeah, we got stopped. For sure. Stop loss hit. All out. Oh, well. Where was the high after I left? Oh, that was a good stop, I guess, huh? High 462. Not bad. Smart trade. And it's back to the 200 on the 5. I wouldn't take a new long here. I'd wait. That's concerning. If it can build out a base here, then it will rally. So you can definitely look at this as an opportunity to get back in, but not yet. All right, guys, that's more than likely going to wrap it up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed everything. If you like the heat check, let me know. We're also going to, it's just me. I'm going to upload that segment later today on YouTube. So if you want to go back and refresh or get more of the levels that you can actually look at, put them on your chart, etc., I'll upload that as soon as I'm all wrapped up here. So I think that's going to do it for today and for this week. So hopefully you guys make some smart decisions for the rest of the day. And some will tell you that you may need an edge to trade. Well, I like to look at things from a different angle. And that's always what you'll get right here on the Atomcash angle. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, precision beats prediction every damn time. See you next week.
The time has passed, and that's a wrap. You're